Okay, so welcome to MKTG 617, Internet Business and Electronic Marketing. Today is our 6th session, and in today's session, we will be looking specifically at segmentation, targeting, differentiation, and positioning online. Ikea, can you hear me now?
Yes, Doc, I can. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Yeah. Okay, so like I was saying, this is our 6th lecture, and we will be looking into segmentation, targeting, differentiation, and positioning online. Sorry, please a moment. I want to respond to Naomi in the chat. Okay, so like I was saying, in today's session, we will be looking at segmentation, targeting, differentiation, and positioning online. Now, this session is basically supposed to help us understand the various groups of customers that we could potentially serve using e-marketing and how to go about making sure that we have positioned ourselves in a manner that make us top of mind when these consumer groups actually find themselves in a position that they need a product or service that we offer as e-marketers. So as usual, there are certain learning outcomes we hope to achieve by the end of the session. And for this session, there are 2 specific ones. The first one is to be able to understand the different bases for customer segmentation in e-marketing, given that there are a number of these and we need to understand what they are and how we can go about combining them in terms of developing effective e-marketing strategies. We will also be able to understand and explain the processes of targeting, right? As well as the processes of differentiation and positioning ourselves online. Given that e-marketing is always faced with the challenge of having to deal with a lot of competitors in the online space. And therefore, as e-marketers, we need to make sure that we have created our e-marketing strategy in a manner that helps us to stand out and enable us to capture a portion of the market that will be enough to give us the value that we seek. And that will appreciate the value that we are offering in order to give us their resources, particularly monetary resources, in exchange for it. So let's get into it, starting from segmentation and targeting. Right now, why segmentation and targeting? We segment and target the market because generally resources are not unlimited, like I always say. And that means that we as e-marketers are always challenged in terms of how much resources we have and how much we can expend on our e-marketing strategies. Bearing in mind that the application of technology in business is not cheap, right? So knowing that we have to go about doing a lot of extensive activities with regard to marketing our products and services online, employing all manner of internet-enabled and non-internet-enabled technologies, we as e-marketers need to appreciate the sheer size of the markets that we are dealing with and be able to pick out segments of this market that we are well poised enough to serve. And that is why the concepts of segmentation and targeting are important to us as e-marketers. Now, to be able to segment the market effectively, we as e-marketers and the companies that we work for require in-depth market knowledge to be able to devise savvy segmentation and targeting strategies. We are saying this because without knowing the nature of the customer base that you're dealing with, their characteristics, their behaviors in terms of their purchase patterns, their browsing patterns, we will not be able to clearly determine who out of these customers that we are dealing with are the best ones to target with our market offering. And therefore, it is important as a starting point in segmentation and targeting for us to go in search of market knowledge. That is information that will give us an idea of the kinds of customers that you are dealing with. And this often comes up in the form of a research problem, which we will go in search of data to try to solve. Now, in the event that you have developed your e-marketing plan, some of your e-marketing objectives can translate into these research problems that we are talking about. For instance, if your plan is to grow your social media following on, say, Instagram to about 1,000 followers by the end of March, this, in essence, becomes your research problem, in the sense that you need to go in search of knowledge that will help you to be able to properly address the issues that come up as a result of this objective you've set for yourself and how to effectively go about solving it. So in getting this market knowledge, there are certain sources of information that we can utilize in order to come by this market knowledge that we are talking about. And these sources are in the form of 1, internal data, 2, secondary data, and 3, primary data. Now we'll take them one after the other and we will explain them, starting from internal data. Now, when we say internal data, we are talking about data that is generated internally within our organization. So we are looking at everything from our sales records to information from our salespeople who go out day in, day out. We are looking at customer feedback that we have received internally, as well as data that we have gathered independently from all the various online platforms, internet enabled and non-internet enabled, that we market and sell our products on. And all this information is generated internally and belongs to us. So as part of our daily activities, we normally generate this information, right, without having to stress about it, because it forms part of our daily transaction. So whether we like it or not, as we are marketing our products on a daily basis, as we are selling through our website, using web analytics, we will definitely be gathering data. Using the cookies on our website, we'll be gathering data, right? Our salespeople will consistently be going in and out, pushing products, pushing services. They'll come back with information about the customers that we serve, the sales records that we have based on the sales that we have made in the past, to the customers we have sold them to, the form in which we sold them to these customers, the volume in which they purchased. All of these information will be available to us internally. And they all give us an inkling of information regarding the nature of the customers that we serve, how many different groups and segments there are, their specific needs, and how we can go about satisfying these needs. Another source of data we can talk about is secondary data. Now, this secondary data is not generated internally. It is generated external to the firm. However, it is usually generated by other people who are collecting data to solve other problems that they have identified. However, upon chancing upon these information that we are referring to as secondary data sources, we realize that there are certain aspects of the information they have gathered to solve their problem that can also be beneficial to us in addressing our problem. For instance, when it comes to social media, we have these online research platforms, right, and analytics platforms like Alexa, like social bakers, who gather information about online behavior among various users on a daily basis. Now, this information is secondary data in terms of the fact that it is not collected specifically to solve our problems. It is general information that is being gathered and put together in one location for anyone who is interested in to access. Now, this is a typical example of a secondary data source where we as e-marketers can go to and obtain information that will be relevant to the activities that we will be performing, including the e-marketing objectives we set for ourselves. So for instance, given that we have decided, please, can everyone see the slides?
Yes, Doc.
Yes, Doc, we can see it.
Esaba says she can't see. Esaba, I think you need to check your connection then, because everyone else can see. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that, Esaba. So like I was saying, these secondary data sources are usually pools of data. Sometimes they have been gathered specifically for a specific purpose. Sometimes too, it is just a general pool of information regarding various kinds of online activity like alexa.com or socialbakers.com, where they are just gathering information about online user activity and presenting it to any firm or organization or individual who requires snippets or portions of this information to aid in their decision making. Please, do we understand?
Yes, Doc.
Has anyone heard of these platforms that I'm talking about? Alexa.com and socialbakers.com. Anyone?
No, Doc.
You haven't?
No, Doc.
Isaac, you've heard of Alexa? Okay.
Yes, please.
And let me see if I can do a bit of a demonstration for the members in the class. So Alexa and Social Bakers initially, when they were created, were free. So you could access all this information free of charge. But when they gained traction and they realized that the information they were gathering was valuable in terms of its size and its currency, they now decided to monetize the platforms. So now for Alexa and Social Bakers, you have to pay to be able to get access to portions of the information. There's some basic information you can get for free, but for the others, generally you have to pay for. So let's see if I can take you to alexa.com and show you a bit of what we are talking about regarding this pool of secondary data that we as e-marketers can sometimes dip into for our benefit. So I'm going to share my browser screen now and see if it will open. Okay, it's still loading. Okay, so let's go to website traffic statistics very quickly and see what is happening. SEMrush. Dorcas, can you tell us about SEMrush? I have not heard about it. So if you could tell us a bit about it.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So SEMrush is also an online analytic platform where you could actually search for market sizes in a particular product and keyword searches. So I was thinking it could also be a source for secondary data, because they also
Search
do
for
a
what?
lot of marketing analytics.
Okay.
Come again, please. They do marketing analytics.
Okay,
Yes.
so what kinds
And
of
they
information?
give information, or you could
What kinds of information
keyword
can you gather?
research, and then you can gather information on demographic on any particular product that you want.
Okay, so then it qualifies, right?
Yes.
And currently there are so many of
Come
them
again,
online.
please.
I said it qualifies.
Yeah.
Good. And there are so many of them online.
All right.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So like I was saying, I don't know if you can see the screen. So like I was telling you before, when they started, they were for free, right? And you could gather all manner of information. But now they've all been monetized. So you can see from the screen that they are asking us if you want to log in or start a trial. Can you see that?
Yes, please.
Good. And then Alexa to the same thing. They are asking you if you want to log in or start a free trial because they have begun to monetize the information, right? So here when you click the search, like Dorcas was just saying, you can find easy to rank keywords, improve your SEO. These are all things that Alexa also does. That's why I was telling her that SEMrush also qualifies. However, you have other online platforms that put together this information that is gathered into usable forms based on what is popular that people are looking for. And then they make it free, available online. So a typical one is Smart Insights. So Smart Insights usually gathers a lot of information from these online platforms and puts them together into sometimes infographics, right, to inform e-marketers about general trends online and changes that are taking place, right, for them to be able to use to improve their business activities, right? So I usually get a lot of infographics from this platform. Recently, I was doing something on Instagram statistics, right, and browsing behavior during the lockdown period. Let me see if I can pull it up again. And I believe I have taken down the information. Now, the reason why a lot of these sites are now monetizing is that we are now in the era of big data, where there is huge amounts of data available, and anyone who can be able to put this data together in a meaningful format that can be able to tell us significant information that will potentially have a positive impact on our business strategy is lacking. So anybody who is able to do this has come up with a way to monetize it so that they can also earn some income from it. Please, I hope we understand. Please, I hope we understand.
Yes, Doc.
Good.
Yes, please.
So this is an example of what I was talking about.
Yes,
so
Doc.
the information is still up. So I want to show you a bit of it. Can you see the screen I'm sharing now? Can you see it?
Yes, please.
Okay. So this is an infographic that Smart Insights put together using another online platform that is paid for, that is used to gather information about online user behavior, and it's called Hootsuite. Please, has anyone heard of Hootsuite? A lot of organizations use this platform to manage their social media. So Smart Insights put together this information using information gained from their Hootsuite account to tell us about social media use around the world, as well as other aspects of online behavior during the era of the pandemic, right? Which was during the heat of the pandemic when there were a lot of lockdowns, between the period of March, right, and I believe July of last year. Sorry about that, the internet is quite slow, but you can see what I'm trying to talk about. So this is an infographic they have created using information from Hootsuite, and they are telling us how many people were active on social media during the month of July. Please, can we see that? This was 3.96 billion, right? And they were looking at social media penetration in terms of users versus the total population of the world, which was about 51%. So currently, 51% of the people across the world are on social media, per this infographic alone, right? And they also have information regarding the annual growth in the total number of social media users, which they are saying is at a plus 10.5% annually. So that means that every year, an additional 376 million people get onto social media, which is huge, right? And they're also telling us the total number of social media users accessing via mobile phones in July. As of July, 3.91 billion people were accessing social media through their mobile phones. So if you are an e-marketer and you have such information at your disposal, imagine how much it will influence your decision making. Because let's take, for example, you find out in July 2020 that there are a total of 3.91 billion people accessing social media via their mobile phones. It means that they are using their mobile phones to perform a number of transactions. So wouldn't it make sense to have a website that is mobile optimized? Certainly. And wouldn't it also make sense if you could afford to develop a mobile app?
It would.
It would. And wouldn't it also make sense if you had an extensive social media presence, given that a number of the social media platforms have a specific target user group?
Yes.
To be very
Exactly. So you see how such secondary
to help,
information, so you see how such secondary information can help you segment your market in terms of user behavior, the technology they are using, the devices they are using, the platforms that they are using, to be able to access them in a way that you can get their attention and sell your product or service to them. So this information is very valuable, and that is why, like I mentioned, a number of the platforms are now monetized, such that the best you can get is a free trial. After that, you need to come back and pay to have access to this information, given its value to your e-marketing strategy. And the third form of source of data we can talk about, in terms of gathering market knowledge, is primary data. And this data is basically the data that we gather ourselves. So we deploy all manner of research tools and strategies to gather this information about whatever user group it is that we are trying to target, or about our general customer base, to gain specific information regarding the problem we have identified, to try and see how best we can solve it. So for instance, like I mentioned earlier, if our objective, our e-marketing objective is to grow our social media following by up to 1,000 users, right, on Instagram. Our research problem here is, how do we grow our Instagram followers to 10,000 or to 1,000, isn't it? Did you hear me?
Yes, Doc.
Good. So like I was saying, I said, if your e-marketing objective is to grow your Instagram following to 10,000 users by the end of March, your research problem here would be, how do you grow your Instagram followers to 10,000 by the end of March? And then you will ask yourself, how do I get information to help me to do this? So in essence, you can start by doing your own survey. What are some of the things you can do in terms of survey? If you want to survey customers to help you to grow your Instagram following, what are some of the questions you will ask them in that survey?
No,
Yes.
please, I think we could ask what attracts people to follow a page.
Exactly. So you generally ask them what would attract them to follow a page. That's a good one. Isaac, another good one. What are their content preferences? What kind of content do they want to see us posting? Right? So those are two very pivotal research questions you can put into your survey. And I'm sure the data you will get from asking those two questions alone in the survey will give you all the information you need to be able to create compelling content, right? As well as use all the tactics that they themselves will give you to be able to get more users to come and follow your page. So thank you. Was that Bafor? Yeah, thank you, Bafor, and thank you, Isaac, for those insightful contributions, right? So these are the three main means by which we can get data to establish market knowledge that will help us to create compelling e-marketing strategies by understanding how to segment the market and target them. So now that we know how to get the market knowledge, let's look at how the segmentation will happen. So what is segmentation? Segmentation is basically the process of aggregating individuals or businesses along similar characteristics And these characteristics could pertain to either the way they use a particular product or service, how they consume it, or the benefits of the product or service, among others, depending on the criteria that you want to use to aggregate them, right? Now, by the end of this aggregation, we end up with distinct groups of customers that are referred to as market segments. And these distinct groups are homogeneous in the sense that they share some kind of characteristic in common that makes them a group that will be of interest to us as e-marketers. So when we are talking about segmentation, in marketing, we have certain bases by which we segment, and e-marketers rely on these same bases to be able to aggregate the markets that they serve into homogeneous groups that they can target with a specific offering. Now, there are 4 of these bases, including 1, demographics, 2, psychographics, 3, geographics, and then 4, behavior. Now, aside these 4 distinct segmentation bases, we as e-marketers, and generally as marketers over the years, have determined that using just one kind of segmentation tactic does not always augur well for the level of complexity in our e-marketing strategy and our ability to be able to create compelling market offerings that will give us the value that we are looking for. So over the years, marketers have determined that using creative combinations of these 4 forms of segmentation give us more compelling results that yield better outcomes than just simply picking one segmentation criterion and using that as the basis to segment your customers. Therefore, as e-marketers, we can also go ahead and use creative combinations of these 4 segmentation bases by combining either 2 or 3 of them. So for instance, you could combine geographic and demographic segmentation and end up with what we refer to as geodemographics, or combine 3 of them in the form of geographic, psychographic, and demographic segmentation and end up with a form of segmentation that we can refer to as geopsychodemographic segmentation. Please, does it make sense?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. However, you just need to bear in mind that the criteria for this is left up to you as an e-marketer and what your objectives are and which combinations you believe will best serve your purpose in terms of achieving your e-marketing objectives. So let's break down these individual segmentation criteria and see what goes into each of them, starting from geographic segmentation. Now, geographic segmentation occurs basically where we segment the market by targeting specific geographic regions, like cities, regions of a country, states, or whole countries, right, with a specific product or service offering. Now, when it comes to geographic segmentation, the whole basis of this segmentation criteria rests upon product distribution strategy. This is the main driving force behind geographic segmentation, because from the onset, geographic segmentation considers how you are going to physically get the product to the final consumer, or how the customer will get to utilize the service that they have purchased after the entire transaction has taken place, thereby making product distribution strategy the core of geographic segmentation, right? However, when it comes to online firms, because of the nature of the platform, we are able to deliver certain forms of service directly online without having to think about physically delivering the product to the customer. However, in the case where it is not a service that the customer can easily consume fully online, for instance, like when the customer buys an ebook or they buy software, which they can immediately download and read, or they can immediately download and install and begin to use. With physical products, after the transaction has taken place online, the product now has to leave whatever warehouse or location we are storing it in to physically get to the customer. Therefore, when it comes to geographic segmentation, for e-marketers, it is an issue of prime concern because there are several locations where customers have purchased products online and those products have never physically gotten to them. Sometimes the physical products get to them, but they don't get to them in the condition that they expected it to get to them, right? So we as e-marketers will typically focus our e-marketing strategies in geographic areas where we know we can distribute these products or service to the customers in a hassle-free manner, and also provide them with follow-up customer assistance in an appropriate language in the event that they need such assistance. So if you are an e-marketer and you are selling to people, for instance, in Dubai, where we know they dominantly speak Arabic, and you will not be able to offer them customer service in Arabic, it will be difficult for you to give them the best value. Given that when they buy the products and services from you, you will not be able to communicate with them in a manner that they will be able to understand, to appreciate how to get the best value out of the product that they have purchased. Also, selling to customers in certain geographic regions makes it difficult for you to deliver products physically to them. For instance, you can't be in Ghana and decide to sell physically to a customer in North Korea. Will that be a prudent decision? Will that be a prudent decision? If you decide to be an e-marketer and market your products online to North Korean users, it will not be prudent, right? Because typically the country restricts access of their citizenry to outside information. So your website may not even be able to get to them. Your website may be blocked before it even reaches the servers of the people in North Korea. So to target them with a market offering will be unnecessary, since there are no actual prospects of doing business in that market. Please, I hope that makes sense.
Yes, though.
So distribution physically, in terms of physical goods that are sold online, and follow-up customer assistance are very important, specifically in a language that the customer can appreciate. So in developing our e-marketing strategies, we need to take this into consideration. Some geographic markets may be very attractive. However, in terms of distribution and follow-up assistance in appropriate language, we will not be able to offer. Still on the concept of geographic segmentation, we can also talk about the fact that internet access is not the same in all portions of the world. So geographically, whereas some regions and countries have very high internet penetration and high internet use, other regions of the world are very limited in that regard. Currently in the world, one of the most deprived countries is Yemen. Who knows that? You know about Yemen? No one has heard of the country Yemen before. You have?
I have, Doc.
Okay, but you don't
Yes,
know
Doc.
you don't know about their issues, right?
No, Doc.
Yemen has been destroyed by several years of war. So in terms of development, it's still currently one of the most impoverished regions in the world, right? So when we are talking about internet penetration and internet use, a country like Yemen cannot compare to a country like the United States, or a country like Ghana, or a country like Nigeria, or a country like the UK. They are all different. And as e-marketers, because we are offering most of our products and services online using the internet, we need to ask ourselves, would it make sense to build a website that serves citizens of perhaps a country like Ghana or any other region of the world that we are considering to sell to customers in? Because depending on the level of internet penetration in those regions, they may or may not be able to access whatever it is that we are offering over the internet. So let's look at a typical example. When we talk about countries like China, China boasts of the largest internet usage in the world, of a total of 854 million users. Now, that does not mean that we can easily segment and sell to the customers in the Chinese market. Because even though geographically, the region has a high internet usage and penetration rate, in terms of other elements of the market environment, which we talked about briefly in our discussion on the e-marketing environment. Please, do we remember that? Am I here with people, or I'm just by myself talking to myself?
I hear me. Yes, please.
No.
Okay, I'm just going to continue and assume there's no one here, and I'm just doing a recording. Okay, so China boasts of the largest internet usage in the world, with a total of 854 million users, right? But the fact that China has a large internet usage and penetration rates does not mean that it is the most prime for e-marketing activity, especially from external people who are not part of the Chinese. And this is because looking at other elements in the e-marketing environment, we can see that politically, legally, China limits a lot of external participation in their economy, such that they have been able to find their own way of developing their own online platforms that serve specifically their population, right? However, unlike India, which follows China closely with an internet penetration rate of about 560 million users, India's market is more open to external participation than the Chinese market is. So as an e-marketer, between these two markets, you definitely have to be cognizant of the limitations that you have in terms of selling to customers in these two markets. Given that apart from the internet usage and penetration rates being high, there are other factors in the macro environment that could place limitations on how you can be able to market and sell your products and services to customers in these markets. Now, this is closely followed by the USA with 313.32 million users, which again is another highly open market, right? Which you can freely sell to customers in, unlike the restrictions that are presented by the two previous markets, with China being the most restrictive when it comes to online marketing activity. And all these facts are from Statista 2021, which is another platform that collates online information and puts it out there for consumption. So we can call it one of the examples of the secondary data sources that we talked about a moment ago. Now, apart from internet usage and penetration, right? Before we move on, I'd like to discuss a few examples of firms that have identified the potential of targeting specific markets that have certain levels of internet usage and penetration and developing specific market strategies for them. And one key firm which has succeeded globally in that regard is Amazon. Amazon has had a knack for identifying specific markets and the potential within these markets and building specific platforms to serve these markets with the products and services that they know will appeal to them. So for instance, Amazon has built a whole website dedicated to India, where products and items are listed in India's currency, along with a lot of items being listed by Indian manufacturers and sellers, in addition to other sellers who are selling products from other parts of the world. We can also see Amazon has done the same thing for the UK, and they have also done the same thing for the Netherlands, to the point where they have even made the Netherlands version of Amazon available in their own language to make it more comfortable for them to use it for purchases, right? And then we have the US version of Amazon that we usually as Ghanaians buy from, right? As well as the UK version. Now, still on the issue of geographic segmentation, like I was saying, given that internet usage and penetration is high, does not mean that you can easily swoop in on that market and target customers within those markets. And I was using China as an example, given their restrictive political and legal environments that limits external influences in their market space, especially when it comes to the online platforms. And because of this, China has been able to build their own versions of various platforms that are being utilized on a large scale globally to ensure that their market is taken care of and will not need to access services from external suppliers to satisfy their needs. So we can talk about China's response to Twitter, which was Weibo, right? And currently, Weibo has evolved beyond its humble beginnings as a Twitter clone to include additional features and services that the Chinese customers are enjoying, even more than perhaps they would have if they were just using a Twitter, right? And then they also have WeChat, which is their response to Facebook. And then Taobao, which is their response to eBay. So Taobao functions basically the same way eBay does. Users can go online and post items that they have for sale, and buyers can go online and bid on these items, and the item ultimately gets sold to the highest bidder. And we have their version of Google, which is Baidu, which is a huge which is a huge search engine, where they can go and search for all manner of information. So if you are an external marketer marketing to customers within this market, you know that from the onset, you are at a disadvantage because they have built their own ecosystem that contains a number of these platforms offering similar, if not better services to what you will purport to offer in their market. So as savvy e-marketers, we need to learn about all these information, which is why the three sources of data we talked about in the beginning are very important, because they are the sources of information that will give us the market knowledge we need, particularly as they pertain to all these changes and unique conditions in various regions of the world, to help us to formulate appropriate e-marketing strategies that will help us succeed. Yeah, Isaac, it's quite interesting. Now, finally, on the element of geographic segmentation, we also need to take cognizance of the fact that English is not the main language of most web pages in specific geographic locations. I know this is news to some of us. Did some of you genuinely believe that English was the main language of all websites or most web pages around the world?
No,
Yes,
Doc.
Doc.
No, Doc.
Yes, Doc.
So yeah, you see, the yeses are more than the no's. Yeah, there are some people who generally believe that every website is in English, right?
It's English.
But unfortunately, it's not.
Perfume.
English is one of the most
But
used, right? Yes, Samir, go ahead.
I'm sorry for cutting in, but I was just saying that even websites now have the feature to translate their English their information when it's in English. So say in case you speak Arabic or Spanish, you can easily translate websites written in English into your language to read. Hello guys, can you hear me?
Yes, Amira, I heard you. I heard you.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm done. I thought I thought Doc would respond.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Samir, can you hear me?
Yes, Doc, I can hear you.
Okay, so I was saying that, can you name one website in Ghana here that can be translated to another language?
Okay, so the popular one that we all know is Google. So Google can translate even to our Ghanaian local languages. You can have Ghana and Hausa.
Google is a search engine. Google is a search engine, a far-reaching search engine all across the globe. So Google doesn't count. I'm asking you about a Ghanaian website
A Ghanaian
that can be
website.
translated.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take a Tonaton's website, for instance. It could be also translated into French.
Uh-huh. Is that true? Have you experienced it yourself?
Tonaton, yes.
Me, I don't buy from Tonaton, so I don't know that it can be translated. Are you sure? Are you sure Tonaton can be translated into French? Because I'm on the Tonaton website now and I don't see that function to translate it into French. It is in English.
Usually, website, okay, but it doesn't come with an inbuilt translation feature. I was thinking that
Inbuilt.
I was thinking that it was a general thing where all websites could be translated.
Yeah, you are assuming, which is not the case. Our websites cannot be translated. Hence, bringing me to my point. Samir.
Okay.
Right? All websites cannot automatically be translated. It's a feature that you actually have to purposely incorporate into the website. So it's like an add-on. Yes, Isaac. So it's like an add-on or an extension that you have to incorporate into the website. So me, my earliest experience of this translation, no, from the owner of the website's end.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So you, the owner of the website, have to incorporate it, right? So my earliest experience of this was with my university in Norway. I schooled in Norway for some time, and my university had an option for you to translate their page into English because they were Norwegian and the website was in Norwegian. But when you come there is an option to translate into the page into English, right? And sometimes it involves building a whole another design for the English section of the page, right? So let me quickly share it with you. Can you see the screen I'm sharing?
Yes, Doc.
Good. So this is my university, right? Was this UIO? No, it was HIH. And then they merged all the universities in Norway. So now they're all universities of the Arctic, right? So you can see from the top right corner that you can see, you see the British flag there. Do you see that with EN next to it? So if you do not understand any of the Norwegian that has been written, you can immediately just click on that tab and it will translate the whole page into English, right? So you are not shortchanged. And this is smart of them because they know that their website is not just being viewed by one person. It's being viewed by various forms of people or different kinds of people. And the most universal language, apart from theirs, which they know of, is English, right? So they made it a point to add an English version of the website by incorporating it, such that if someone comes there and they can't speak the Norwegian, the English will be a more comfortable medium. Please, does it make sense?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Good.
It does.
So you can see that upon clicking the English, it has brought us to a whole nother page. Please, do you see that? And this is all English, right? So the search menu, the tabs, all the items that are presented to us, coronavirus information, everything is presented in English, right? Now, the problem that we are noticing in our context is that most of the sellers in our context assume that everybody here understands English, right? But Ghana is becoming a multicultural environment where we have people from all walks of life and not just English speaking nationals, right? So in developing a website for use by people in Ghana, you need to bear in mind that there may be some people too who do not understand the English. Like this morning in one of my classes, I was alerted to the fact that I have French speaking students in my class. And I was asking myself how they've been able to survive up until this time. Because they are supposed to do presentations and I'm being told that they will not be able to articulate properly, which I found very interesting, right? but they have admission into the University of Ghana and they are in my class and I was not informed that they do not understand English. Perhaps they understand, but not to the level of appreciating everything that we are teaching. So as e-marketers, this is an opportunity for us. Even though it is time consuming and may perhaps cost the organization additional resources, it will open up a whole other segment of the market base to us, such that we're not just restricted to those online users who can read English, but we are also exposed to those who speak these other languages and are more comfortable transacting online using these languages. Does it make sense?
Yes, please, it does.
Good. Other websites too, they do not put it in as an extension, but they are able to detect the server from which you are accessing it and use your ISP to determine which region of the world you are accessing from. And then the websites that will be shown to you will be the one designed for the region that you are accessing it from. Right? So sometimes you will Google and access a particular platform, but it will be available to you in the language that they know people from your region are more comfortable reading it in. Right? So it came as no surprise when I saw multiple languages being represented here in the ranking of the most used languages for web pages around the world. When I saw English as number one, I was not surprised again because English is one of the most commonly spoken languages in the world. But I wasn't expecting to see Chinese at number two. I was expecting to see another language. Was anyone else expecting to see another language?
Yeah,
Yes,
I
Doc.
was expecting
Well, I'm
French.
actually not
I
surprised
was
to see.
yeah, I was expecting French as well.
Yeah, me too. I was also expecting French. But then seeing Chinese there too, I was not surprised. Because the Chinese are currently the largest
Yeah.
nation in the world, right? But then I was expecting French to be at least number three. But again, French is not even there. It is Spanish.
French is at number 7.
French is number 7. That is what shocked me the most. I'm like, really? So if you are developing a website right now and in your mind, oh, it's either English or French, you are joking. Because French doesn't come in until after we have seen Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, Indonesian. Can you imagine? Portuguese before French comes. Which tells you that e-marketing strategy needs to evolve with the times. And that is why, again, we are insisting, yes, Pafo.
Don't we think French because of our geographical location? Because we are surrounded by French people.
Because we are surrounded by French-speaking countries.
Yes. So we automatically assume that
We
French was the
assume,
next.
yes. And that is very inward-looking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is why we talked consistently about the concept of situation analysis, environmental scanning, and gaining market knowledge. Because with our assumptions, we have clearly been able to prove using this small survey we did in this class that we are way off. So imagine we base our e-marketing strategy on these assumptions. And bear in mind that these decisions that are being made are costing resources in real time. You would have made a huge mistake that can cost your organization huge amounts of money. Right? So as an e-marketer, as a marketer in general, you cannot assume. Market knowledge is key. That is why we started off by discussing the 3 sources of data that can help us to put together this market knowledge to make well-informed decisions when it comes to our e-marketing strategy. Right? And that is it for geographic segmentation. Right? Next, we can talk of demographic segmentation. And this is basically where we segment the market based on demographic variables like age, gender, or social group, right? We can also talk about things like educational level and occupation, right? Such that when we are considering demographics like educational level, we look specifically into how we can design our online platforms, especially our websites, to be favorable to people with all manner of educational backgrounds, such that it's not too complicated for perhaps the JSS graduates to use, right? But it's also good enough and sophisticated enough perhaps for the university graduates to appreciate and use in performing specific transactions, However, when it comes to demographic segmentation, we as e-marketers are specifically interested in a specific demographic criterion, which is age. And this is because age plays a key role in how different customer groups appreciate and use technology, especially the internet. And to be able to appreciate this better, we marketers use a particular theory we refer to as generational theory. A generational theory is a theory that divides customers into different age groups based on the year that they were born and the characteristics that they exhibit. So looking at the particular year groups in which certain customers were born, we can be able to predict how they will react in terms of their appreciation and use of technology for everyday activities, and to a large extent determine how they will respond to our marketing activities. So under generational theory, we can currently speak of 6 generational groups, starting from the silent generation, also known as the builders, who were born between 1925 and 1945. Then we can also talk about the baby boomers next, who were born between 1946 and 1964. Next, we can talk about the Generation X, who were born between 1965 and 1979. Then we have the millennials and the Generation Y, who were born between, or Generation Y, who were born between 1980 and 1994. And I believe a lot of us in this class are Generation Ys. These are closely followed by the iGen or the Gen Z, who are born between 1995 and 2009. And then the most recent age group being the Gen Alphas, who were born between 2010 and now. Now, when you see generational theory online, you will always see a difference of ±1 in terms of the cap of the years, right? These differences are allowed. However, when you use a particular classification, you need to be able to state its source so that whoever is referring to it will know where you got that particular grouping from. And that is why I have indicated that mine is from Garrick et al. 2017, right? So let's look specifically into these age groups and look at which ones are of prime interest to the e-marketer. Now, the 3 groups that are of prime interest to us as e-marketers are the following: the millennials, also known as Gen Y, the Gen Zs, also known as iGen, and then the Generation Alphas. This is largely because they control information quickly, and they use a lot of technology gadgets and are very ambidextrous when it comes to the use of these gadgets and appreciating how they apply to their daily activities. At the same time, too, these 3 generations have a superpower of being able to ignore marketers, such that there is no way we can just sell them anything and they will accept it, right? They also handle multitasking and information overload way better than the older internet users. And that is why they are able to take on all manner of tasks at the same time using various devices, and are presented with all manner of information at the same time and do not get confused, right? Even though they may get a little distracted, they're able to handle all these various sources of information coming at them. So generally, we say that the Generation Ys are confident and the Gen Zs are competitive, whereas the Gen Alphas are decision makers. Decision makers in the sense that even though they do not have purchasing power, they are largely the children of the Generation Y. And they have decision-making power such that they determine what mommy and daddy should buy and should not buy. And that is why they form part of these 3 generational groups that are of interest to us as e-marketers, right? So let's look more into detail at these individual generational groups and what their characteristics are and how this will play into our e-marketing strategy, starting from millennials, right? So we have already established the age group of these millennials. Now let's delve deeper into their media consumption and their banking habits. Now, in terms of their media consumption, millennials generally still watch television. So about 95% of millennials are still watching television, even though they still like to stream a lot online. So although they are watching a lot of television, right, which is still about 95% of the millennial generation, they still like to stream with online platforms like Netflix, right? So as an e-marketer, what does this tell you? It tells you that it is not just enough to target this generational group using adverts on online streaming platforms, because they still largely watch digital television. So your strategy could use a combination of these two media by pushing communication through digital television and also using online streaming platforms like Netflix, right? This generation also, in terms of their media consumption, are extremely comfortable with mobile devices. So it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning. If they're extremely comfortable with mobile devices, it means they will be using it a lot to perform certain transactions. So that means that it makes sense as an e-marketer to have a mobile app and also to have a website that is mobile device optimized. However, once again, this generation is also still using computers generally to do a lot of their purchases. So even though they are very comfortable with mobile devices, they also still use the desktops and the laptops. And therefore, all the platforms that you are using, you need to make sure are optimized for perfect viewing and use on all these multiple devices we are talking about. And finally, they also have multiple social media accounts. Therefore, as an e-marketer trying to market to millennials, you can't just look at marketing to them using one social media platform because they have several accounts. So it's up to you to make sure that you have good representation on the various social media platforms. That is why we see a lot of the organizations having a presence on at least 2 or 3 of these platforms. And they link them boldly on their website so that the users will be able to know which platforms they are located on and where they can find them. Now, moving on to banking habits, we can see that the millennials have less brand loyalty than previous generations. So that means that if you are selling to a particular customer in the millennial group, you do not expect them to independently or willingly keep coming back to purchase from you as a brand consistently. You need to work harder to wow them and work harder to maintain their attention to keep them purchasing from you because they have a less tendency of being loyal. They also prefer to shop products and features first, and they have little patience for inefficient or poor service. So as an e-marketer, you need to make sure that your product features are clearly displayed and spelled out online for them to find. That is why e-marketers will utilize price comparison sites and product review sites, all of which provide ample evidence and information regarding the features of their products and services, the characteristics of it, how much they can be purchased for, where they can be got, and what deals and discounts are available to facilitate these purchases. At the same time, too, we can learn from this as e-marketers that we cannot mess with customer service when it comes to millennials because they are intolerant of inefficient and poor service. Please, does it make sense?
Yes, Doc.
Yes, Doc.
So given that they appreciate superior brands that offer them consistent quality, you owe it to yourself as a brand marketing to this customer group online to consistently offer them a superior experience that will deliver superior value to them. That is the only way you will keep them coming back to you. Moving on to Generation Z, we've already established the year groups within which they were born. Now, in terms of their media consumptions, the average Gen Zer received their first mobile phone at age 10, right? Meaning that right from this age, they were already exposed to content online. They were already seeing messages from various marketers, from various organizations trying to sell various products and services. So they are very comfortable with using these mobile devices, right? As we will observe now. So a number of the Gen Zers, especially the students that I teach, you realize that they do everything with their mobile phones. They attend their Zoom lectures on their mobile phones. They perform their transactions, including paying for items and browsing, seeking for information, everything, they do it on their mobile phones because they are comfortable using these devices, right? And mobile phones go alongside tablets, which are fairly larger versions of these mobile phones that we are talking about. So it goes back to the point we were making that as an e-marketer, the platforms with which you are accessing or marketing or communicating with this group should be optimized and supported by all these devices, right? Given that, again, this group grew up in a hyper-connected world, right? And the smartphone is their preferred method of communication. You'll be doing yourself a disservice as a marketer if you do not have a mobile app that they can use. Because the mobile app will definitely give them better service than if they were accessing a mobile optimized version of the website. And this is because they spend a lot of time on their mobile devices. So giving them an app that they can actually install on the device and access it on demand will serve you better than having a mobile version of the website that they always have to access through a browser. Please, does it make sense?
Yes,
Yes,
Doc.
Doc.
Good. Now, in
Yes.
terms of the banking habits of this group too, we learned that they have seen the struggle of millennials, right? The millennials who went through the Great Depression, I think it was in 2008, right? So they are fiscally conservative. They are not spendthrift. They think about every purchase that they make, every dollar that they spend, they think long and hard about. That is why you find a lot of them enjoy most of these deals and giveaways and discounts. Have you observed that? They enjoy giveaways and discounts a lot, and all these deals that are offered online. They will also do a lot of research using all these various product review websites and price comparison websites just to make sure that they are getting the best value for their money, right? So as an e-marketer marketing to this group, you know that definitely if you want to get their attention, you need to utilize a lot of these tools, right? By throwing in a giveaway every now and then, by throwing in a discount here and there, right? By making sure that your product is front and center and being reviewed on these platforms, and you're available on all these price comparison sites to make sure you have a competitive chance of getting selected as the ultimate choice of brand of product or service that they choose to ultimately satisfy their need. And then finally, we can talk about the Gen Alphas, right? They are the youngest of the generations. And even though they do not have purchasing power, like we mentioned, they are decision makers, such that they make a lot of the decisions regarding what products and services are consumed by their parents, who are largely millennials, right? And this generation were basically born with technology. So you find out that the average 3, 4, 5-year-old owns a tablet, owns a smartphone, right? They can use gaming consoles. They play games, and sometimes they're even good at it than us, the adults, right? Right from when they are born, when they go to crèche, 2 months, 3 months, they are already watching e-learning on smart TVs in their court. Thank you, Coco Melon. Coco Melon on the tablets, Coco Melon on the TVs in their classrooms, in the crèche, when they are in the court. So by the time they even learn how to crawl, they're already humming and singing these songs as they heard them on all these devices that they are exposed to. So as an e-marketer marketing to this generational group, you should be able to target them using the devices that you know they will be using most of the time, and design your offering such that it will appeal, such that it will appeal to them. Please, does it make sense?
Yes, Doc.
Good,
Yes, Doc.
right? And with that, we end the discussion on the age groups in terms of demographics, right? Now, still on the issue of demographics, when you are targeting them with particular adverts, you need to be able to look at the demographic groups and target them using advertising that you know will appeal to them. And we see a typical example of this in our social media feeds all the time, where they use all these AI algorithms to target us with specific forms of adverts. So you realize that you are browsing your Instagram feed and then you happen to visit the page of, say, a seller of a particular item like electronics or phone cases. And then the next moment you come back to the feed, you are seeing adverts from all these sellers of phone cases being shown to you throughout your feed. And that is because you are being targeted based on your browsing behavior and your browsing habits. And as e-marketers too, we can use this demographic information to also rent email addresses and contact lists. Recently, the telcos are renting out our information to companies, such that you are sitting there and out of nowhere, you start receiving text messages from organizations that are selling all manner of things to you, asking you to subscribe for things out of nowhere. And that is because e-marketers are renting this information from the telcos. They are renting them from platforms that you visit that are gathering your user information, even as you are using these platforms, right? So we as e-marketers can gain this information as well and use it to focus our advertising, including our pay-per-click advertising, our display advertising, our interactive advertising, among others, to ensure that it is designed to target the specific demographic that we are looking to target, right? The next form of segmentation we can talk about is psychographic segmentation. And here we are dealing with the issue of attitudes, personalities, values, various activities, lifestyles, interests, as well as opinions, right? And under this type of segmentation, we can categorize our customer groups into, first of all, interest communities. Now, online, we have a number of these communities. And here they include websites and forums that are created to enable various online users who have a particular interest to come together and exchange information, right? So we can see entertainment communities online that are sometimes built around specific games, right? So there are online communities built around video games, online communities built around TV shows and TV series, online communities built around education, right? The University of Ghana has a very vibrant community on Twitter. Good. Online communities around anime, among others. We also have online communities that focus on discussing special topics. At the same time, we also have online communities built around scheduled events. Previously, prior to the Corona era, in Ghana, there were some very popular events that were always scheduled that communities developed around to help people to anticipate and look forward to. A typical example of these communities that are built around events is the December to Remember community. Who knows about the December to Remember event? Yeah, they have a whole community for it on Facebook, right? Yeah, CTFM's December to Remember, right? You can talk about Sarkodie's Rapaholic, which is also a major event scheduled. Ghana Music Awards, yeah, right? All of these have communities built around them online, right? You can also talk about attitudes and behaviors. And here, attitudes are basically the positive or negative emotions that users exhibit towards a particular brand, product, or service. And these attitudes are reflected in their subsequent behaviors, right? So if an online user has a negative attitude towards your brand, it will exhibit in the behavior that they will exhibit. For instance, if they do not like your brand, they will always talk negatively about your brand to other users online. And they will not even go ahead to actually patronize your products or services or use any of your platforms online. And they may even go ahead to actively encourage others not to do so. So as e-marketers, we always need to focus on those who are helping to promote our brand online and have positive attitudes towards it, and encourage them to go further and perform specific activities, right? Including perhaps registering to receive subsequent information from us. So once you realize that there's a particular user group that are liking your posts, that are leaving comments, you can target them with specific information, inviting them to perhaps leave their email address for you to target them with specific information later on, or invite them to engage in specific activities outside of what they are already doing to support your brand. For instance, if they go and like something on your social media page, say your Facebook page or your Twitter page, you can establish a connection by giving them a link to click through to your website to get to know more about you, or to get to know more about the products and services that you offer, or leave their information to receive subsequent feedback from your brand, right? So these are typical examples of how we can segment based on the attitudes that various users exhibit towards our brand, right? Now, in terms of psychographic information, we as e-marketers need to be able to appreciate the fact that it is not just important to know about their psychographic characteristics like their values and their opinions to be able to target them with offerings. It also helps us in creating and designing the platforms that we use to reach out to them, to be able to ensure that what we are putting on these platforms will actually appeal to them. So for instance, if you are designing a web page and you know that your audience is primarily of a conservative value system, or they have a conservative lifestyle. You will not want to use imagery that is provocative in any way, manner, or form. Please, I hope that makes sense.
Yes, Doc.
Good. Also knowing the value systems of these users that you have, as well as their interests and opinions, will help you to be able to choose the nature of content and imagery that you put together in designing your web page or your social media platform. It even helps you to tailor the kind of content that you post. So if you know that you are dealing with certain users that have a particular value system, like currently in the US, it is very dangerous for you to post as an e-marketer any content that will bring up any semblances of racial bias, because you know definitely that is going to cause uproar and might end up getting you cancelled as a brand. So all of this information is to help us to be able to determine how to tailor our web page designs, as well as the content that we post on our social media platforms, to help us connect with our prospects as well as our customers. Finally, we can talk about behavioral segmentation, right? And here, when we talk about behavioral segmentation, we are basically talking about the customer's behavior, right, in terms of the benefits that they seek when they purchase our product or service, the occasion or timing in which they use the product or service, right, and how they use the product or service. Now, in terms of benefit sought, everybody buys a product or service looking for a specific kind of benefit. What someone may consider something that is of value may be invaluable or not valuable to another. So, for instance, iPhones are very popular phones that people buy a lot in Ghana here. But believe you me, people buy it for different reasons. For instance, some people buy the iPhone in terms of its quality and performance. So when they buy the iPhone, they know that it will last long and they will not have to replace it often. Some people also buy it for camera quality. Good, right? Some people also buy it mainly for just flashy reasons and to make a societal statement. So they're just buying it to show people that they can afford it, and they just use it to receive and make calls. But like Ikeajan is saying, some people buy it for camera quality. I know experienced photographers who use iPhones for almost all their images because of the various features and opportunities that it gives them to vary the nature of the images that they capture, right? So we as e-marketers need to strive to understand the various benefits that people seek from the products and services that we offer, so that we can make sure that regardless of who this customer is, they will be able to find what they are looking for in our product or service. So you realize that with the iPhone, everybody gets what they are looking for. Those who want to make a flashy statement get what they are looking for. So the iPhone often comes in sizes, with the iPhone Plus, the small versions, the big ones, right? Then we also have the different versions in terms of capacity and memory space, right? So we have the 256 gig, I believe. Then there's a lower gig size of space. Then there's a higher version above that one as well. Then in terms of performance, we have the Pro Max, right? And the regulars. So everybody gets to choose which version is best suited to the benefits that they seek, right? Isaac, you said expectation, this confirmation paradigm. Yeah, that will play out clearly here, right? So you have to make sure we satisfy everybody, because each of them comes to the consumption experience with different expectations, right? Next, we can talk about the occasion or timing for this consumption. And this is where we are looking at when the customers are most likely to make a purchase of this product or service that we are offering, right? So some customers purchase products and services on universal occasions, right? Like on holidays or during seasonal events, right? And this is usually the time where e-marketers can earn a lot of income by cashing in on these universal occasions. So one of these huge holidays that we know of and seasonal events is Christmas. And around Christmas time, even prior to Christmas time, you realize that e-marketers try their best to take advantage of the season to earn as much income as they can. So Christmas sales were not enough. They had to introduce their own version of online good, being Black Friday, right? And Black Friday was not even enough because they realized that the offline market was taking most of Black Friday sales from them. So they instituted their own, right? Apart from Black Friday, what's the other one that the online people added to cater to themselves? You know this one. Apart from Black Friday, you've forgotten. It's Cyber Monday. Yeah, Cyber Monday. Right? So these are all holidays and seasonal events that people look forward to. And marketers take advantage of this period to cash in and earn as much income as they can, right? Because there are certain groups of customers who will not buy until this period comes up, and then they do a lot of buying. We can also talk about the recurring personal occasions, right? Like the birthdays and the anniversaries and the vacations. We have a lot of online marketers who have taken advantage of this, and they get customers to sign up to have predetermined gifts and messages sent out to their loved ones during these recurring personal occasions. So e-marketers can get customers to purchase various products and services in advance in anticipation of these events, right? So 1-800-Flowers is one such organization that uses e-marketing to schedule various recurring personal occasions for their customers. And for a fee, they deliver products and services for these customers to their loved ones or the preferred recipients of these items when these occasions come up, without the customer having to automatically remember or go ahead and institute these purchase actions, right? So as a customer, I can go to 1-800-Flowers and register with them and pay a fee and say every year on Mother's Day, send my mother a box of chocolates and some flowers, right? And they will keep doing so every year, provided I keep paying the fee, right? So that's a typical example of how e-marketers can segment based on recurring personal locations and earn good revenue for them. Finally, we can talk about the rare personal locations, right? Like the weddings, for instance. A wedding doesn't happen all the time. And there are online marketers that specialize in providing some of these services, right? Like a website known as The Knot, which specializes in this rare personal location and provides all services related to this rare personal location that we are talking about, including providing vendors for every aspect of the event. Vendors that will give you chairs, tables, clothing, officiants, save the dates, invitations, every single thing you will need in relation to this rare personal location, that particular online seller provides, right? So that is it for occasion or timing. And finally, under behavioral segmentation, we can talk about product usage. We know that under this, there are 3 main classifications, including heavy users or super users of the product, average or medium users, and then light users. So for every product or service that we can talk about, there are certain people that are heavy users of it, some that are average users, and others that are light users. And we see this typically happening in terms of how the telcos tend to break down the data bundles that they sell. Please, have we realized this? So they have developed specific data bundles to cater to different needs, including heavy users of specific forms of online activity. Like for instance, they have packages tailored towards heavy users of online streaming platforms, heavy users of call, what is it even called? Of call time, let's say, right? So you can buy a bundle package that caters towards your needs. If you're a heavy user of data rather than making calls, they have a package that will give you more data in relation to airtime for making calls. Yes, Nuruddin, go ahead.
Hello, Doc.
Yes,
Yes, sorry, I wasn't raising my hand. It's just a mistake.
it was a mistake.
Yes.
How come? What are you doing that you made a mistake like that?
It's a problem with my phone, I think.
Oh, so you're also using your phone. So you're part of the people who use their phones for everything.
Yeah.
And then when I was talking, you didn't raise your hand, you see.
Okay, so what you were talking about the mobile.
So you are
the
millennial.
telecom service and stuff.
You are millennial, or you're a Gen Z, or you are okay. You don't want to say. That's fine.
He's a baby bloomer.
What?
A baby boomer. He said you're a baby boomer. Don't worry, he's just pulling your legs. All right. So like I was saying, the telcos have mastered this art in terms of creating the bundles for their data, right, and airtime to be able to make sure that they tailor the package to the needs of individual users, be it a heavy or average user or light user in terms of airtime or data, right? So that is it for product usage. Now, we are done with segmentation, and now we are going to look into targeting. So targeting basically deals with getting the most attractive of these segments that you have created out of your segmentation criteria to be able to approach with your e-marketing offering. So here, when we say the most attractive, we are talking about attractiveness in terms of accessibility. Is it possible to access the customers in these groups to be able to sell our products and services to them? Again, we are also talking about profitability. Will it be profitable to target this group? Because some groups may be accessible, but when you look at the grand scheme of things and how much it's going to cost you to sell products and services to them, you may end up rather making a loss. So you need to ask yourself about the profitability of serving these particular segments. And then also about the growth potential. Some market segments may not be attractive in the short term. They may not look profitable now. But based on your projections from the market knowledge you have gathered, these segments may have the possibility of growing and becoming more profitable in the near future. So you may want to be able to target this market for now by incurring losses in the short term to be able to ensure that in the long term, when the market becomes profitable, you have already laid the groundwork to reap the benefits of what you have sown, right? So in targeting, we are looking at, as e-marketers, the markets that we are choosing to serve being accessible through the internet, given that that is the primary medium by which we will be doing the marketing. And then this market must be sizable and growing. Like I said, not every market will be attractive from the onset. It may not look profitable in the beginning. However, based on your research and your projections, you can see that they have prospects of growth. And therefore, you will choose to target them for the short term and incur minimal losses to be able to benefit in the long term in future, right? And finally, like I just mentioned, they must hold great potential for profit. Even though they are profitable now, you need to look into the foreseeable future to see if this profitability is going to last, so that you can be able to ensure that you are targeting them now, but you're not wasting your resources. Because in targeting them now, you are earning something, but in the long term, those earnings are bound to grow, so that you do not waste your efforts as an e-marketer, right? So with that being said, once you are able to establish these three criteria, you need to look at a specific targeting strategy to use to target these markets. And when it comes to e-marketing, we have two main targeting strategies that we use. The first one is niche marketing, right? Which is about targeting a small portion of a larger market, right? And these small portions usually have their own unique characteristics, preferences, and needs. So we zero in on them and we look at the unique characteristics and needs that they have, and we tailor make strategies to serve them. Now, beyond niche marketing, we can talk about micro marketing or individualized targeting. And here it is about selecting an even more specific small group within a niche market to be able to serve with a particular market offering by tailoring certain marketing mix elements to target the needs of these groups, right? So, for instance, if you are an online seller and you are selling a particular product, let's say you're selling fashion. In terms of niche marketing, you can decide to look at the larger market and now start segmenting to specific niche markets within that group. And in the niche markets that we can talk about in terms of fashion, We can talk about different age groups, right? Different genders and different body types. So you realize that some fashion people have regular sizes and plus sizes. Has anyone noticed that before?
Yes,
Ikuya, you said good. Ikuya, you said baby
Yes, doc.
Saras. Yeah, exactly, right? So in the larger market, some people may decide to target babies or to target women or to target women of a particular dress size, right? So you realize that the person may decide that their organization, sorry, or the e-marketer will decide their niche market will be females. But then they'll take it further in terms of individualized targeting where they are targeting plus size females, right? In the men's fashion as well, we realize that some men are very tall, while some men are average height. So in the niche market, they can decide to target men. However, in micro marketing, they can decide to target men in specific sizes, in regular sizes, and in sizes referred as tall. So when you go to platforms like ASOS, you can see all these different niche marketing and micro marketing targeting being used to be able to ensure that they can get the most value out of the market. Ikuaja maternity wear is also an example. Good, right? So you're targeting a niche market of women or females. However, you are doing micro marketing by doing more individualized targeting, by targeting plus size females and maternity women who will need maternity wear, being the pregnant women, right? So these are the two key targeting strategies that we use online. Next, we can talk about differentiation. And differentiation is next because once you decide that you want to target a particular segment, it does not mean that you are home free. Because the same way you have seen some level of attractiveness in this market, other competitors have also seen the same level of attractiveness. So to be able to gain the attention of your users or customers in this segment, you have to make sure that you create something different, right? That will make you stand out from the competition. And that is why we are discussing issues of differentiation. So differentiation here is basically designing your marketing mix strategies in a manner that will make you different from the competitors in the market, right? And also making sure that once you have differentiated yourself, you put yourself in a unique position when it comes to competing brands in that product category or service category that you operate in. So the goal here when it comes to differentiation is to obtain a differential advantage, such that when it comes to standing out or setting yourself apart, you have an advantage over your competitors because of how well you have been able to design your strategies and position yourself in the market. So when we talk about differentiation online, we are basically referring to a property of any product or service that is able to claim a uniqueness over other products or services in its category. And we can observe a lot of this happening currently in the online market as it pertains to different products and services that are sold both locally and internationally. We can also talk about any advantage that is unique to our organization. So the advantage may not just come in relation to the product or service that we offer, but also in other aspects, including the experience that we give to our customers in terms of the processes that lead up to the purchase of their products and services, and even after sales services that we offer, right? Which are extremely difficult for our competitors to copy. So let's look at some examples of these differentiation bases. Some organizations differentiate themselves based on product. And Apple is a typical example. Everyone anticipates Apple's annual release of the iPhone. And people are almost always never disappointed because the iPhone always comes out every year with a bang. Every new version has something that the older versions did not have, right? And it has become something that people look forward to, which sets Apple apart from their competition in the phone market. We can also talk about firms that differentiate themselves based on customization. There are a lot of sneaker brands out there, but not all of them. In fact, I dare say very few of them offer what Nike offers in terms of Nike by You. I believe we have demonstrated this in class before, where we saw how Nike gives us the power to customize our sneakers to suit our individual tastes and needs, which a lot of the other sneaker companies do not offer, right? And we can also talk about service differentiation, where a lot of organizations differentiate themselves on the unique service that they offer. So Amazon Prime is a very popular service differentiation tactic that Amazon uses. And they pride themselves on one-day shipping, such that if you are in an area where Amazon Prime is being offered, if you buy the product today, you will get the product delivered to you in the next 24 hours. So that is a typical example of service differentiation, right? We can also talk about personnel differentiation. And here it's about having personnel with unique skill sets that enable them to perform certain activities in a manner that personnel of other organizations cannot. And it sets the said organization with these employees apart from their competition. So Zappos.com is a typical example of personnel who have unique skill sets that have to do with delivering superior customer service online, right? And this cannot easily be replicated because it costs money to train personnel. And it even costs money to source unique talent to come and work for your organization. So to be able to source the best personnel with unique skill sets to ensure that your customers are getting the best of service is something that as an organization you can do to be able to differentiate yourself, which will benefit your company into the long term. You can also talk about channel differentiation, right? Where you offer your products and services through various channels. So prior to the COVID-19 era, streaming online was a preserve of few people, right? But once we all got into the concept of lockdowns and the fact that we were not going anywhere, we had to find means of entertaining ourselves. And that was where streaming became a thing. Everyone was streaming everything online because no one could go to the movie theaters. No one could go out into the streets, right? And watch all these movies anymore. So the online streaming platforms became our source of entertainment. And we realized that because of this, those organizations who had thought beforehand about taking their services online had the upper hand, such that first movers like Netflix were already set up online and ready to go. And therefore, streaming of Netflix became more popular among online users who were streaming more and more of Netflix, such that Netflix accounts for almost 15% of global bandwidth at the moment, meaning that Netflix is one of the most streamed online platforms. And this prompted other competitors to enter the market, including Showmax and HBO Max and Disney Plus and Apple TV, right? However, Netflix still has one up on them because they have first mover advantage and were able to differentiate themselves originally using the online channel, right? Next, we can talk about image differentiation. And this one is very common, where we can see organizations differentiating themselves based on image, right? So if you are selling online, you need to be able to differentiate yourself such that when your customers come to your platform, they have a different view of your brand and the product and service that you offer. So typically, in terms of, for instance, motor vehicles, you cannot compare a Mercedes-Benz to a Toyota, can you? The image of someone driving a Mercedes-Benz is very different from someone driving a Toyota. Agreed?
Agreed.
Yeah. Right?
Undisputed, though.
So image differentiation is very important. Once you create an image in the minds of your consumers, it carries through, right? Currently, when it comes to e-commerce, Amazon is holding the space. Even though Alibaba is doing its best, they still cannot be compared to the Amazon that we know, right? So that is it for differentiation. We can additionally talk about site atmospherics. You'll bear in mind that visiting different websites, you get a different feel depending on the website you are visiting. Some websites are more professionally designed and created, such that you find the whole concept of using the website entertaining. While other websites are so cumbersome to use, they are not user-friendly, they are cluttered with a lot of information, and there's nothing entertaining about browsing these websites, right? So site atmospherics is another unique way by which various e-marketers can differentiate themselves. When you go to the Apple website, for instance, you can see that the design of the website alone is clean and unique compared to the platforms of other organizations that are selling similar products, like perhaps a Huawei or a Samsung, right? We can also talk about user-generated content, right? Some websites limit the ability of their customers to come to their websites and express themselves. Whereas you realize that some websites actually thrive on user-generated content such that it is the posts and comments of their customers that help them to be able to fine-tune the design of the website. So they have a whole page on their website dedicated to customer feedback and customer comments and interaction. And this is another way by which some organizations also differentiate themselves when it comes to electronic marketing. And then we can finally talk about efficient and timely order processing. Some organizations are known for their efficient and timely order processing. They offer various services that make the process of making your order and having it delivered seamless and hassle-free, such that from the point of selecting the item to paying for the item to tracking the item through its various locations up until it gets to you, to even obtaining after sales service. All of these are offered by these organizations whilst they are selling to you online. And ASOS is one typical platform that does well at this. They are able to offer you help at various sections of processing your order up until you have your item in your hands in your particular location or destination. So these 9 things we have discussed are ways by which e-marketers can differentiate the offering of firms online. And like I said, once you differentiate yourself, it helps you to position your brand at a unique place in the mind of your consumer, right? So when we talk about positioning, it's basically about creating a desired image for yourself and your products and services in the minds of your chosen user segment. And here, this segment could either be customers or businesses or even governments, depending on who your target buyer is. Now, the first step in positioning here is to be able to determine the product category in which you compete. Because remember, we talked about the fact that when you are differentiating yourself so that you stand out from the competition. So to position yourself on the basis of differentiation, you need to know who your competition is and know the strategies that your competition are using to gain your customers' attention, so that you can be able to design a strategy that will help you to stand apart from them and occupy this unique desired image in the mind of your consumers. And I must add that this is not a one-off activity that you can do as an e-marketer. Positioning is built over time, and it is done using a combination of tactics and tools and activities, especially in the online context, including delivering unique customer experiences at various levels of the customer path, or the various customer touch points we can talk about, including before the sale, during the sale, and after the sale. All of these help the e-marketer to construct a unique position for themselves in the minds of their users, right? And once you know who your competitors are, you can be able to clearly put together the right strategy that will help you to stand out. And when it comes to e-marketing, one of the best bets we have for positioning ourselves based on differentiation in the minds of our customers is using technology. So you realize that websites incorporate a host of features just to be able to ensure that they stand apart from their competition. So like we were discussing, some websites have a live chat function. Some websites use chatbots. Some websites will go ahead and give you the option to translate the website into a different language. Some websites give you the option to be able to sign up so that you can have a personalized page created for you to tailor to your needs. These are all ways by which we can differentiate ourselves from the competition and hold a unique place in the minds of our consumers, right? And once we have positioned ourselves, there are various means by which we can hold this positioning once we have created it. Now, these bases that we are going to discuss help the e-marketer to not only position themselves, but also maintain this positioning that they have created in the mind of the consumer. And you realize that at any point in time, the e-marketer can use a combination of these positioning bases we are going to discuss to ensure that they are always one step ahead of their competition. So for instance, we have talked about technology, where you can position yourself on the basis of technology, like Apple has over the years. Some organizations pride themselves in creating innovative applications for customers to use, which position themselves uniquely in the minds of their users, right? So for instance, I save with StanChart, and their mobile banking app is, if you ask me, perhaps one of the most innovative that I have ever used. And because of that, they hold a unique position in my mind when it comes to banking. And I always choose StanChart above all the others, even though they offer very terrible interest rates. But on the basis of their technology, in terms of the mobile app, I'm stuck with it, right? We can also talk about positioning based on benefits. Some e-marketers may not offer the best technology. However, with the basic technology that they have, they are able to give the customer excellent benefits, which can keep the customer coming all the time. So for instance, one benefit you can offer is fast delivery of orders. Another benefit you can offer is order tracking. It is not every retail site that offers order tracking as part of their benefits when you buy from them. So you make the purchase and you sit down and then you start praying, hoping that the item that you bought will get to you, right? That's another benefit that we can use as e-marketers to position ourselves. We can also position ourselves based on a specific user category that we decide to serve. So some e-marketers position themselves as being the best in terms of serving a particular user category. Like Nickelodeon Africa, for instance, have positioned themselves as the most popular website for kids in Africa, where they offer all manner of content and games targeted specifically at kids and children, right? We can also talk about competitive positioning, where organizations position themselves on the basis of their competition. And we see a lot of this happening when it comes to organizations, particularly in the software and digital technology industry, where we see online marketers marketing specific products and services, but marketing them in a competitive manner, right? So we can talk about organizations like Apple and Samsung that are always positioning themselves competitively in terms of technology. And even though Apple is the sole owner and user of the iOS, Samsung has also done their best to position themselves directly against Apple, given that they are pitching themselves as the more affordable option to the iPhone iOS, even though they are using Android, by jam packing a lot of their higher end Samsung phones with various features that you would liken to what you would get if you were able to purchase an iPhone. So you realize that they also have certain Samsung phones that are up there in terms of price and features and function, like the iPhone. True or false?
True, Doc.
Very true.
Yeah. So you realize that even in terms of pricing, they come very close. You can buy the latest Samsung. Please, what's the latest Samsung Galaxy phone?
S20 Ultra.
S20 Ultra, which I know is around 8,000 or 7,000? Yeah, Ghana cedis, which you can buy an iPhone around the same ballpark, right? So you realize that with more features, exactly, right? So the competitive positioning is really strong, right? And that is a typical example of how, as e-marketers, we can position ourselves competitively by looking at the largest fish in the pond and pitching ourselves against them. Then finally, we can talk about integration, right? Where we position ourselves as integrating various services and products into one and offering the customer a one-stop shop for a number of items or products or services that they will be requiring at any point in time. So remember when we're talking about the rare occasions under behavioral segmentation, I mentioned a website called The Knot that is built around the rare occasion of weddings. Now, the Knot is so intricate in terms of integration that everything that has to do with weddings in the US, they can help you as a couple or a potential wedding planner to address. So if you get on their website, you can plan your wedding from beginning to end by using the platform to access all the vendors and the potential services that you will need, including chairs, tables, venue, dresses, rings, officiants, invitations, including save the dates, thank you cards, everything. Please, has anyone heard of the Knot before?
No.
Okay, let me quickly take you to the site and show you what I'm talking about. It is so phenomenal. And if somebody in Ghana will be able to replicate this, given the myriad wedding vendors that we have in Ghana, the person will be well on their way to making huge amounts of money. So currently we are on the Not website. Please, can we see it? Yeah, first time
Okay.
ever. Now you see, do you see the features they are offering? So first of all, they are taking advantage of COVID to let you know that love is not cancelled, neither is your planning. Get advice on what's next for you, right? So already they are telling you that the fact that there's COVID doesn't mean don't plan your wedding. Like, consult us, we will help you plan your wedding. And as if that is not enough. Good, transitions, but transitions is not for weddings, transitions is for the other one.
Yeah.
But yes, transitions is good, exactly. Okay, I didn't want to mention it because it gives me the heebie-jeebies. But
Oh,
thank you for typing it.
most welcome.
So transition is for the other one, right? Exactly. So you go to their website and you can plan everything about that occasion from beginning to end. It's the same for the North. So you can look at planning tools, right? You can look at local vendors. Please, can you see what I'm showing you now? So under
Yes,
local
sir.
vendors, you can find vendors for the reception venue, photographers, videographers, bridal salons, beauty, DJs, wedding band, florist, wedding planner, hotel room block, jewelers, and there are even more options. When you click see all, you see more options, right? You can also create your own wedding website, right? Or explore and browse other couples' wedding websites to get inspiration for yours. You can also design your invitations in case you want to create save the dates, or your wedding has been postponed and you want to change the date, or you actually want to design your invitations, or design separate invitations for your ceremony or reception, or design thank you cards that you want to send out, right? You can also sign up for their registry, right, to show the kind of gifts that you want people to purchase for you. And I think this concept should be introduced in Ghana here because Ghanaians bring a lot of useless wedding gifts to weddings. I kid you not.
Hi, doctor, you have no idea.
If something like this could be started in Ghana, it will be a lifesaver. Then couples
You
can
have no
actually
idea,
determine,
doc.
yeah. Ah. So couples could actually determine what they want as a gift, right? So here you can even start a cash fund. Can you see that? And then people can deposit
Yes.
cash into it for you. It's better than
Yeah.
all the funny gifts they've been bringing that we don't even use, right? So this is another
Welcome glass
thing.
cup.
I can see people having flashbacks.
But Doc, I think now people are trying to limit the way people bring those gifts. So on the invitation
Yeah,
card, they tell you either cash or nothing.
Yeah.
So if
yeah,
you don't give them money, you don't bring a gift at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But you know Ghanaian culture too, eh? The way they talk about you after you give that invitation.
Oh,
Hey,
yes. Oh, yes.
this person's wedding,
Yes.
she was asking for money. Who does she think she is? Do we have a money tree? They will say all manner of things. But at the end of the day, it's your wedding. So you decide what
Yeah.
you want, right? But if there could be something like this where you could specifically state your gift, whether you want a particular, and you can even determine the type of gift it is, a specific design, and then someone can go there and decide, okay, I want to buy this couple. That would be awesome, right? And also look at the site makes provision for rings and dresses as well. So rings and dresses and the dresses cover all those who are likely to be dressed up as part of the occasion. The wedding dresses, the bridesmaids, mother of the bride, flower girl, the menswear, all this is covered. And they are location specific. So if you are in Accra, for instance, and you come here, you can be able to see those who are selling wedding dresses in Accra, right? Those who are selling wedding dresses perhaps in East Legon. So they will be able to narrow it down to your specific location so that you don't suffer, right? And to be able to put together such a platform, yes, I is comprehensive. If someone in Ghana can replicate this, my God, it will be awesome because weddings currently are one of the most profitable industries in Ghana here. The wedding industry is booming in Ghana.
Yeah.
I think you will.
Doc,
Doc,
Yes.
you're well vested in this, so you could possibly do it. So what's hindering you from doing it?
you don't
I
want
need-
money. You don't want
Okay.
money.
The thing is that the initial financial investment, all your investment will go into building the platform. So you need to build a functioning platform to be able to get these features with all the merchandising that has been done very nicely. And it's not easy. You need an actual website developer who is well versed, and then you need to get a server to host the platform, which you will be paying for annually and monthly. And then another difficult part is getting the vendors to sign on.
Exactly.
Reliable.
That will be the hardest part, because in Africa
Especially
they
these
don't like.
top-notch designers,
Yeah, it will be difficult to
like
get
the
them to sign on.
PCs and
The
co.
Pistis, the Sima Brews, the
She by
Sadia
Bina.
Sanusis, She by Bina,
Yeah.
Duabasewa, where are they?
Yeah.
Lash Lahai.
Focus
Every
on
day new
Bless.
ones are coming. Every day new ones are coming. To get them to sign on, everyone views themselves as too big for this. But they are the ones too that the couples will be looking for.
The mother betters.
The mother betters, thank you.
Yeah.
Right? To get them to sign
Yes.
on, they'll see it as you pitching them against each other. Why am I on the same platform as Sadia Sanusi? Why am I on the same platform as Yatel? Why am I on the same platform as
Yes.
Simabru?
Yes.
I want to be on my own.
Doc, and even the decorators currently,
Yeah.
even with their platform, they are divided because some
Yeah.
of them view themselves as high class, educated decorators.
Exactly.
And they have the local Omonko school decorators and all that.
Exactly. Right? So this is the reason why I've not been able to do, and you, to be able to do this, you have to make it your full-time mission. I can't dedicate my life to this. I'm a full-time lecturer first. Right? And they would not understand that I couldn't teach my classes or give my students the best because I was chasing my passion or some hobby or something. So that's why I've not been able to do it. But if someone can do it, I mean, I can offer free advice. So let's see how it goes. If any of you gets the resources and the inspiration, I'm there. You can bring me on board, and I'll help you with free advice.
Doc, I think Solis can do it. Solis can do it.
Solis, you must be rich.
From Ron. I will. I'll seek funding from Ron.
Definitely. That will be good. Ron, I hope you are ready.
Partnership.
That's all.
Class donations.
Then you float some shares, then you give us some. So that we can be able to have vested interest. Okay, so on that note, we've come to the end of our session for today. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a great time. Sorry for those who were having connectivity issues. I think currently that is our plight in Ghana here. Hopefully it will get better.
And Doc, we want to thank Bafo for that free show of his apps.
Bafo was doing a show.
I don't know what he was doing.
Honestly, I didn't see. I have opened the participants and the chat, so I didn't see. Hey, Bafo. So this is what you were doing during the class at 70.
Yeah, so.
Hey, how did the ladies focus? How did the ladies focus? Oh, sorry, Rafo. But you see, your plight was another person's enjoyment. You see, she said free app show. So while you were suffering in light of, she was enjoying your free show. Side attraction, exactly. Okay, all right. So I wish you all the best, okay? God be with you all. And we'll meet again, God willing, next week to continue. All right.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Bye.
Have a good evening.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I don't know.